Hey Sooners, my name is Kat.
And I'm Jess, and today we'll be talking about the Monstrous series novella, or the book number 3.5 in the Monstrous series by Lily Mayne. Rin.
Yay. Okay, so this book features Danny and Rin, two of our favorite characters in the series.
So we can do like a quick thing about the cover. It's Rin's smoke thing.
It's a good description though, because this is not at all what I imagined it looking like. I think I had pictured something much more translucent than like this dark. Like, this is scary. I'd be scared if I saw this like creeping towards me.
It's pretty cool. I mean, for a cover, it's like discreet. Like you have no idea what the book's about. So, it's nice for what it is. It's nice. So
Yeah, I like it.
On to a plot summary.
So this book is essentially just about I do believe it was at the end of Eden that they mentioned that they were going to go to the Cain and Sin to tether their lives together so that they could be together forever. So it's essentially just like their journey, like of going to like Rin's world and stuff. So it begins with like they're walking and they're kind of walking towards the rift that is in Texas. And once they finally get there, Rin knocks out all the guards so that he can kind of sneak in. But he takes one of them into like the rift just to kind of test out like the air quality, the food, and the water to see if it'd be okay for Danny to like go in and be able to survive. The guard ends up being fine. Like, he's like, the food is fine, like the water's fine. But I can imagine it'd be like pretty traumatic to be forcefully dragged through a rift to another world and force fed.
Yeah, especially by Rin.
Yeah.
That's even scarier.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And when Rin knocked out all the guards, he was initially gonna like kill them all or like do something, but Danny was like, nope, don't kill him. So Rin like hesitantly like knocks them all out with his smoke thing, but he doesn't really want to do this just because it's like kind of like invasive for him as well as it is for them. But once Danny and Rin go through the rift, they are almost immediately intercepted by Orlith. And Orlith is a Teleth, and this is like our first time seeing another Teleth other than Rin, because there's only like 7 left. His species is dying, and so this is like a really like big thing to see, like, oh my god, there's like another Teleth here. Well, Orlith tells us that like he's had like sexual relations with Rin, and that they were like supposed to like be together and have kids together. Like, they were kind of like a thing, from Orlith's perspective. But Rin was like, nope, you were just a good fuck. And that was kind of, I guess, like jarring for like Orlith. And Orlith is like dressed in like fancy robes, is very like decorative, if you will, while Rin is in like a trench coat, with the hood, you know. And apparently Orlith is over like the Europe section of like the world, like getting rid of the parasites there.
So we all know that Danny loves, like, I would say ugly creatures. So like as we're traveling to kind of get closer to the Cain and Sin, they see this like bug creature, and Danny really, really wants to take it home. But Ren is like, absolutely not. Like, it's like, we're not going to take care of it. He's like, no. And Danny's like really devastated and really sad about it. Yeah, so they eventually stop in a house, and this is where our first spicy scene happens. It's a pretty good spicy scene. And Rin talks about really wanting to buy Danny a house since he can't take him to his cave, because in order to get into the cave, Rin has to transform into his smoke version. As they're making their way, like after the house, they're heading to this place called Zoli's Basin. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's essentially like a bathhouse, and people go there because it's supposed to bring youth, like health and vitality. But Ren is just like, it's just a hot spring. Like, people hype it up to be something more than it is. And it's here that we kind of see like the prejudice that the monsters from this world have against humans, because there are some kids making comments, like kids and parents making comments about like what Danny looks like, and like I think Rin too even. They're like, whoa, like they don't belong here. But yeah, this section also has a really good spicy scene. It's
a bathhouse spicy scene, you know?
I know. Spicy scene in a sacred place. Although Danny doesn't, I don't think Danny's aware that it's such a like a sacred place in Rin's culture.
Yeah.
So, because he definitely wouldn't have let that happen.
No, for sure. For sure. But it was good. I'm glad it did
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. After they leave like the hot spring, they go like they head towards the Canaan Sen, which is the whole reason they came here in the first place. So they walk out into this like middle of like the ocean kind of like door, and they like walk into that, and like everything's just like huge. Like Rin has to like struggle to open this door too. Like this was like a big ass door even for like Rin, who's very very strong. So once they get inside, they walk in like to the inner parts of this like, I don't know, sacred place, and they see these two large. They open another set of doors, and they see these two large, like deity creatures. Like that's the best way to describe them. They're like huge, gigantic, like enormous, and they have like mismatched color schemes of like one's black, one's white, and they both have like skulls on their head, and one of them is called Ara and the other one's called Hag, I think, and they're both like called, they're both like mobs is like their species, I guess, or like what they are, maybe like deities, gods. I'm not really sure what that is, but they're basically like godlike entities, and they don't say anything. They just kind of are there. But in the center of this giant room is like this well of like liquid, and so Danny and Rin go and like up to like the well, and they drink from the cup. Like they scoop up the liquid and they both drink from the cup. Also, while they're there, Danny like starts crying from like the sheer like enormity of like everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Which is just like, that was like a big like thing, like whoa, like he was just very overwhelmed by like being in the presence of these like deity creatures, and then also like being there like with Rin and just like everything. So anyway, they drink from the cup, and then they leave, and Rin is worried that it didn't work, but like the only way to find out is like later if like something happens. But they leave, and they keep going like on their journey, like back towards the human realm. But before like they head like straight there, they decide to like veer off and like go to like towards a town to like spend the night and like see, like sightsee before they leave, since they're already there. So on their travels like to the town, they see this like turtle worm thing. Yeah, this is just like a random point in the story. I don't think it has much significance other than the fact that there is a new creature introduced that's like a turtle worm thing. Yep.
Yeah. It sounds kind of gross, honestly.
Yeah, like came out of the sand. Yeah, it didn't really have any point other than just it's there.
Yeah.
So, we find out that Danny just had a birthday too. So he is now 24 instead of 23. So then they arrive at this town, and the town is full of like Vince and Ushos, which are, I guess, two different types of creatures. Ushos are like very like businessy types, and then Vince are like kind of pretentious, stuck-up types. And while they're at the bathhouse, Rin stole something. What was it?
I want to say it's like the crystallized flowers, but I am not 100% sure.
Yeah. So Rin stole something. He wasn't supposed to take it.
He wasn't supposed to, yeah.
Yeah. But he sells that, like in like the black market, because he can't just sell it on the street. But he sells it to like this Vince in the black market and gets some money for it. And he uses that money to get Danny and himself like a like hotel or like a place to rest for the night. So when Rin like walks in and like, I don't know, does his like Rin tell a thing, everybody kind of leaves. They're like, scary. And the hotel owner is like, you're bad for business, you need to go. And he's like, I have money, I'm your only customer, take it.
So they go up to the room, and Danny's able to like take a bath and like kind of relax after that really just like intense moment that they shared. And they also engage in spicy time. And also, I think it was just like a funny point to mention, Rin forces like the owner of the hotel to kind of make Danny food, and he like stands there and watches and harasses him the entire time to make sure that he doesn't do anything to poison Danny. And I think it was mentioned that he like Danny didn't even really like the food. He was like, it was gross.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell Rin that because he was like, he just went through all the trouble to get it for me. So they do that. And then they go to leave in the morning, and then Danny kind of has like a little accident, and he trips and hits his hand on this like really spiky plant, and like instantly he can see that his body is like rejecting the spines of the plant, I would say. And they're like, oh shit, like this, like our the tethering really worked. So like Rand's like kind of relieved that he's like, now I can trust that he'll be fine even if I'm not always with him.
Mm-hmm. They travel like through the town, and they go to like this garden, because like on the top of this hill of the town that they're in
Mm.
is this like big like palace. So like Danny's like, what's that? And Ren's like, I'll take you up there. And there's this garden, and it's the person who lives in the palace, or like this like nice house, is Moric Lore, who is like the lord of the province. And he's a Vint too. Yeah, I don't know if that's important, but he's a Vint. Because it seems like there's only Vints and Ushos mostly in this town. That was the main creatures in this town. And there's like a poorer side of this town too. I think that was interestingly mentioned, that there was like a wealthier and poorer side of this town. So I was like, wow, look at that. It's not just like there's a town. There's also like economic strife within said town. But anyway, they go up to this garden, and the garden is full of poisonous plants. Rin warns Danny not to touch any of the plants. And while they're up like on this like high hill and stuff, like it's just like a really nice view. And while they're there, Rin professes his love to Danny, and he's just like, I love you so much.
Oh my goodness.
And basically says, I want to be with you forever. So Rin has like these, bone rings on his hands. So he takes one of them off of his fingers and like puts it on Danny's finger. And this is like basically like a wedding ring. So cute. Yeah. Something important to mention is Danny's like, are those animal bones? And then Rin's like, no, they're the bones of my mortal enemies. And Danny's like, you're joking, right? And Rin's like, yeah, it's a joke. Yeah.
I don't think he's joking.
He's not joking. He's definitely not.
No.
No. Yeah, which I just thought that was funny. So, yeah.
So later, like, Rin's kind of thinking, he's like, I know that this is, like, we're technically married since, like, we've tethered our lives and, like, we've exchanged rings, but he's like, I'm aware that, well, he gets Danny a cake, and he's like, I'm aware that, like, a wedding ceremony, it, like, may be important to you and, like, your culture, and I know that it's usually more than, like, a ring and a cake, but this is, like, just my attempt at, like, making you more comfortable. But yeah, Danny gets a little cake, and it's he likes it compared to the other food, and this essentially completes their marriage ceremony.
While they're there too, they make a bet about whether Eden and Hunter are still together, and if they are, they're gonna tell them like about the Canaan Sin. So Danny thinks that they are still together, and Rin thinks that they've like broken up. Like Rin does not think that Hunter and Eden are still together, because like Hunter's a little asshole, and Eden's just like the sweetest. Like he thought something happened. So there's that. Their little bet that they made. So yeah, that was basically the important things that happened in the book. But at the very last page, there is like a perspective from Orlith, and it's like a single line. Do you read it?
Yeah, I can read it. It says, oh my goodness. If Rin got to have a human pet, I wanted one too. And that's the only line on the page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing happening.
Orlith's might get a human pet.
I know, very exciting. He's on the hunt for one, it seems.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, will it be like, it is like a pet, or will it be like, I don't know, or will it end up being like Orlith's pet,
Oh,
Do you
interesting.
know what I mean? Wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think pet could open it to a lot of different things if that's the way he worded it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the end of like our plot summary. It's a short book but it's really good, and it covers a lot.
Yeah, for a novella, it is very well done. It definitely is not just like filler. It definitely has like, it moves the story forward, and it is very important. It's very important to read this book. Like it's not like an optional read where if you're like, if you read it, you'll be fine. Like if you don't read it, you will be fine, because you definitely will miss out on things if you do not read the 3.5 novella. So yeah, and it also, as you said earlier, it covers Danny and Rin. Why wouldn't you want to read it? Like it's more content.
this book did a really good job of giving us an in-depth view, I guess a surface level view, I should say, of the monster realm. We get a look at some other types of monsters,
Mm-hmm.
races maybe,
Yeah.
um,
Species?
as well species maybe, yeah, as well as we get a lot of information about like the biodiversity that's there
Mm-hmm.
and the animals that live within the realm as well, and that was really nice.
Yeah. Like the grass is described as a different color as well as the trees.
It's red, yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Um, yeah, so there's like it's different from our world, but also similar in ways, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is interesting.
Yeah.
They have societies, they have hierarchies,
Mm-hmm.
they have, lords and
Biases,
biases, yeah,
yeah.
things of that sort. They have a currency system, they have holy
Mm-hmm.
places. There's so much here. Yeah, so something that was also just really quick to mention, I really did like the description of like the Canaan Sen and like the whole thing of the
Mm-hmm.
Canaan Sen, because at the end of Eden, like at the end of Rin, it was, we talked about how it wasn't discussed that have very different lifespans. One
Mm-hmm.
of them is going
Mm-hmm.
to die significantly sooner than, or not significantly, a lot sooner than, yeah,
Yeah.
significantly, but then the other. But then in Eden, at the very end, Eden was like, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna live a lot longer than Hunter, and I just am gonna have to accept that, and that was just a
Yeah.
very, it was wow. I was like, wow, I'm glad we're
Yeah.
addressing this.
And then at the end of the Reich, um Ari was like, I'm going to die when Ghost dies.
Yeah, so very different
Yeah.
perspectives. Yeah, I feel like Rin didn't even, in hindsight, I feel like it wouldn't even have crossed Rin's mind that
Mm-hmm.
Danny wouldn't be here when wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he was always like, we will always be together, like no matter what. He didn't
Yeah.
even cross his mind. I don't know if that was like done on purpose or not, but like looking back, I'm like, huh, that does fit his character.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the addition of like the Kanon Sin really does like tie up that loose end. Like nobody has to worry about that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And then also the fact that Danny and Rin are married now. Like that's really
Yay.
exciting. I didn't expect that to like ever happen. Like that to be a thing. I thought it'd always just be like, yep, we're lovers, that's the end. But they
Yeah.
have a a quote unquote like official like marriage. Like they are bound
They're
together
married.
by
Yeah.
like yeah, by human standards and by literal life
Mm-hmm.
monster standards. Like their lives are tethered. They are tethered, mated, and bonded forever. Which is amazing. Yay.
So, did you want to go into like our ratings of the book?
Yes.
What did you give it for the plot?
I gave it a 5 out of 5 for plot. I really, really liked the fact that this book had plot, as I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
I expected it to be just filler, nothing happens,
Mm-hmm.
blah. But we got so much plot. We got so much insight into like the world, into the characters, into like everything. We really moved forward. Like it was very important. This book was a lot more important to the story than I would have ever thought it was from the beginning. Like from just like looking at it and from my previous experience of like novellas and stuff. This was a book in and of itself. Like it
Yeah.
felt like it was a whole, because I guess it was, but it just felt
Mm-hmm.
like so much happened. I loved it.
I also gave it a 5 out of 5. I feel like you pretty much summed up how I felt about this as well. There's a lot of movement here, and it was all like very necessary to move the plot along. And I think Lily did a really good job of like just making it all fit together so cohesively.
What were your thoughts on the world building?
I also gave this section a 5 out of 5. I think that, and it might just help that it's a completely different world than like Earth, I guess, but the way in which it's structured and the way in which it was described is like it was like really insightful. And I also really appreciate that we got to look into like the culture of the monsters world too. So that
Mm-hmm.
was something that really influenced this score.
I also gave it a 5 out of 5 for world building. Yeah, I mean the fact that we've gotten a whole nother literal like
Mhm.
dimension, like it's insane. and as I mentioned before, like this world has things similar to like the human worlds, like of like we have hierarchies, diversity, you know what I mean, strife, struggle, you know, places of worship, you know, it's insane. I'm like, wow, I never this novella has more world building than some books and like some full length novels, and that says a lot.
What did you give it for the characters?
I gave the characters a 5 out of 5, of course, for, you know, our beloved Danny and Rin. You know, they are beloved. I love them more. Didn't know that was possible, but I do in fact love them more after this novella. They are so cute together. Adorable. My favorite.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same. I also gave it a 5 out of 5. Nothing bad to say. They are just so wholesome together. And even in the way in which that Rin treats Danny is just very soft, and I love it.
What'd you give it for spicy scenes?
I gave this a 3 out of 5. There were some good ones, although they do have, I feel like they have better spicy scenes in like the first book. Although there's the one scene in the bathhouse, I was like, wow, this hits a little different. But overall, I think they were pretty good. Yeah.
I agree. I also gave it a 3 out of 5, and for the same reason. The bathhouse one was immaculate. The rest were just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like the short story spicy scenes better than some of those the spicy scenes that have happened in this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lily, wow. Thank you for all the short stories. Much appreciated. Really giving all of your readers so much content, so much food to consume. What was your overall rating?
Overall, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I really love this book. It is, even when I was like flipping through it before we were doing the video, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this book so much. There's just so much, so much good content, and they're just so sweet and like so caring to each other. I'm like, wow, this is great.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I was gonna give it a 4, but I was like, it's better than a 4. But I was like, I don't know if it's as good as the first book, which I did give a 5. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of using that as like the baseline
standard,
you know, for the series, you know, because we had such a strong start, and it's just like a little bit underneath that for me, but it's definitely above like a 4. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5 for overall rating. I love it though. There's no denying that I do in fact love this novella.
All right, so what's next on our schedule?
Next, we will be reading the 4th book in Lily Mayne's series, or Monstrous series. Gloam. Woo! Gloam.
Woo!
The cover is very nice.
Goodbye for now, sinners.
See you next time.